be several issues in the external environment. If you want to pay attention to all of them, your analysis will even be bogus because you will not be able to identify the relevant issues. So pay attention to steps in all of these environments or trends that you think will be relevant for your business organization. Okay. Within the context of the pestle analysis, we have what is known as the black swans and structural breaks. Okay, so the pestle analysis is primarily about monitoring and reviewing longer-term trends, but there are also single events that cannot be easily foreseen. So the black swans and the structural breaks simply talks about the fact that in spite of all the analysis that you will have done, your political, your economic, social, technological, environmental, legal, you'll have done all the trends, you'll have done all the studies. But there may be instances where one single event will happen in the history of mankind that will disrupt all the projections and analysis that you've done. Okay? And the black swans is actually coming from, the name is coming from history, where a particular event, just as we have now as COVID-19 happened, and threw all business plans and strategies overboard because nobody actually expected that. Okay. In our time, it's COVID that came to serve as black swan and structural break to business plans and procedures and so on and so forth. All right. Nobody, all the prophets couldn't see it. Nobody foresaw whatever. It was so funny in Ghana. I remember watching it in the news, and I think it was the initial outbreak in China. All right. And all what you hear on radio is the fact that as for Ghana, we are God-fearing country. And so we shouldn't worry, it won't get worse. Right. We thought it should be like this Ebola thing, or it could be contained in China. Right. All of a sudden, it has become a global event. And I think COVID, the experience of COVID is something that every single one of us should pay attention and ponder over. Because personally, it has changed a lot of my thinking about this world. Okay. Those days, I used to think that if you're in Europe, dying is very, very hard, of course, because of their health systems and all that. But you realize that Africa performed better, or we in this part of the world actually survived this epidemic more than those guys. All right. There are several lessons that we can pick. But within the context of strategic management, what we're saying under this is the fact that instead of all your knowledge and your analysis, you need to know that there are situations where one event can happen and in the course of time that will render every plan, every strategy that you've put in place useless. And you may have to go back and restart or build on the catastrophe that has happened to be able to redesign the way things are done in your organization. Okay. And within the context of organization, COVID has done a lot in changing the way things are done. And as the person who answered much earlier said, was it Daniel? Okay, it is possible this online class we're having this morning is because of the COVID experience. All right. Online, as I said in time past, everything online was something that we disregarded. If you had your PhD online, everybody felt you have not been to school because what we knew then was face-to-face interactions and stuff like that. Okay. Businesses insisted on their employees coming to work, even for work that could have been done remotely, say by using computer, whatever, internet connections and so on and so forth. Supervisors and employers then, until they see you physically, they felt you are lazy. Okay. But now those things have become the trend or the norm of the day. And these are what we call the black swans and structural breaks in the pestle analysis. One single event can happen in the external environment and disrupts the way things are done. Okay. So because of black swans and structural breaks, is it the case that it will not be necessary to engage in pestle analysis? All right. So what we're saying that pestle analysis is likely to raise questions like what if? So once you continually pay attention to your external environment, the political, economic, and so on and so forth, you always be conscious of the question, or you are likely to be more conscious of the question, what if? Okay, what if means that you create scenarios for other events in case they happen. What do you do about those events? So a company that engages in pestle or external environment analysis is likely to be more prepared for disaster or black swans and structural breaks than a company that does not engage in it at all. Okay, so understand it. We're saying that the fact that you are engaged in pestle analysis or a study of your external environment doesn't mean everything is sorted out. They can be an external event that nobody has thought about, and that can disrupt everything for your company. But the other point we're saying is that in spite of the possibility of such an event occurring, it will still be useful because the company that engages in this external environmental analysis is more likely to be dealing with what if questions, okay, than a company that doesn't bother itself at all with the external environment. So if you engage in the external environment, you may now be thinking about, we've planned for this, we've planned for that, but what if this other thing happens? Okay, so you are likely to be more prepared even for black swans than a company that does not engage in pestle analysis. All right. The other thing, so we've looked at the pestle, the political, some call those factors SLEP factors. There are so many acronyms for them. So one appreciation is the fact that those factors can pose as a threat. They can also provide us as opportunities from the environment. So it's always important for us to analyze them to know what we can take from them, whether they may be opportunities or whether they may be threats. It will help us to position our business well in order to profit from the external environment. All right. Part of the external environment consideration is a proper understanding of industry life cycle. Okay. And it's similar, if you know about product life cycle, it's very similar to product life cycle. Every industry goes through the introduction stage. All right. Then the industry gets to growth stage, the industry matures, and the industry then declines. So it's important because the advantages or the opportunities vary from stage to stage. All right. So if you're a new entrant, I don't think you want to be entering into an industry that is at its decline stage. If you do that, unless you come in with something radically new, you actually be burying your own self as a business. So it's important to know the industry life cycle, appreciate the stage of the industry, and that will determine the kind of products and services that you should be providing. In fact, if you understand the industry very well, when it gets to the decline stage, that is probably the time to be moving out of the industry and not creating newer or more products in that particular type of industry. All right. Anybody to help me with an example of an industry that has either left the system or that is declining? Yes, Osborne.
I know of industry at the production stage, but declining, I don't really know. But then I know of Central Refinery.
You know of what?
Central Refinery. It's in Tema.
So
they are about to refine crude oil.
So Osborne, the industry life cycle is not about a specific company. It's about an industry. Okay, so let me give you an example of the Ghanaian movie industry. All right.
All right.
You know, when you go to a stage please, can you mute it? I'm getting. All right. So if you paid attention to the industry, there was the introduction stage. And there is this stage that the industry was doing very, very well. Okay. And all of a sudden, now we don't even hear about them. Okay. I think the one that really experienced this shock is the Kumawood. Those that are into local whatever. All right. So you need to understand when the trend was they were at their peak. Okay, people like that's where Ajako, Lewen, and all that got their fame and probably their money to be able to engage in other forms of businesses. All right. But assuming now you are an actor and you are good with that particular side, Kumawood side or this local, acting with these local languages and so on and so forth, you realize that your opportunities are almost non-existent now because nobody is talking about that particular industry anymore. Okay. If you take the normal regular guys as well, when Jackie Appiah, John DeMello and all that were really superstars, now nobody is actually interested in those type of movies again. Okay. So the industry life cycle is not really about a single company. You want to, don't forget we are stating the external environment. Okay. After you've known the issues that we've spoken about, now you want to have a proper appreciation of the entire industry and know the stage in which the industry is. Because each stage, if this introduction stage, it provides and has the potential for growth. It provides good place to invest your resources because you know a company will grow. Okay. If it is at the growth stage, probably you use it as a cash cow. At the maturity stay the same. And once it starts declining, maybe that's the time to get out of the industry instead of investing more. So that is how you need to appreciate the industry life cycle as a strategist, because each stage comes with its own opportunities and threats. Are we clear with the industry life cycle? Are we fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So don't kind of analyze it like company. Of course, if you do it company, then you come into the internal environment, the company itself analyzing itself. Okay, but this time around, we're doing the external environment. So we want to see how the entire industry is performing, because the performance of the industry will also have a bearing on the performance of your company. So you want to pay attention to the industry and where the industry has gotten to. All right. Okay. We go to the 5 competitive forces model by Michael Porter. All right. Michael Porter's 5 competitive forces model. After so far we've done personal analysis, external environment that you need to understand. Then we've also just looked at industry life cycle. That is another aspect of the external environment that you need to understand. And then Porter comes to say that what is really important within the external environment. So we have what is known as the macro environment, external environment, and we have what is known as the micro external environment. So according to Michael Porter, the immediate environment, even though external, okay, tends to have more impact on the business than the normal political, economic, social, technological environment. That is where he came out with what he calls the 5 forces, competitive forces model. Okay, so his argument basically is that yes, the technological, political, economic, and all that are okay, but really, because they are too general, you want to narrow down to those factors that will have an immediate impact on the business. Okay, and these factors are also external, but they tend to have more direct and immediate impact than the macro external environment. All right. So he has what is known as the rivalry among existing competitors. Rivalry among existing competitors. That's his number one. So depending upon the strengths of the competitors, the rivalry could either be very keen or weak. Okay, so there are conditions that could make the rivalry strong, and there are conditions that could make the rivalry weak. But definitely what your rivals do, and rivals are companies that sell the same product or services as your company. All right. Once they, for example, if they reduce their prices, rational consumers or customers of yours will just switch and go to your rival. All right. If they improve upon the quality of their product, in order to keep your customers, you also have to improve the quality of your product. Otherwise, with time, you lose your customers to them. So the first external factor, according to this scholar, is to pay attention to your competitors in the industry that you find yourself. All right. The other group is the threat of new entrants. So these guys are not your competitors, but these are businesses or individuals that have the potential or ability of coming into your business. All right. They can set up whatever that you are selling now. They can easily set up a company to sell the same thing. So you don't only want to be mindful of your competitors, existing competitors, but you also want to be mindful of the threat of new entrants. Okay. How do you do this analysis? You want to be mindful of the type of laws and regulations that exist in order to be able to get into the industry in the first place. Is it an industry that basically what somebody needs is just some 10,000 or 5,000 and they can start? If that is the case, then you want to be more worried about the threats of new entrants. Okay. But assuming it's an industry where before you can come in, you must get some licensing, some license that will give you the authority. Otherwise, you cannot come in. And you are already into that industry or into that business, then you feel protected. In which case, the threat of new entrants will not be high because you know the rigor and difficulty that comes with getting the license to be able to get into that business. All right. The example that I think all of us can relate with is the setting up of a pharmacy. All right. Anybody with an experience, what are the regulations there? What do you need to be able to set up a pharmacy?
No, Professor, please, I think you have to get a license before you establish the pharmacy.
And what do you need to be able to get the license? That is what I really wanted.
I am not all that conversant, but all that I know is that you have to write an exams before you can get there.
Write an exams? Oh, I see. But I've heard that you need to be a pharmacist. Okay. You need to have qualified as a pharmacist before you can be given the license. So if you are not a pharmacist, you cannot open. So it's different from the usual drugstore, I guess we know. All right. So if that is the requirement, so you ask yourself, how many pharmacists will you have in your hometown or the area where you want to set up the pharmacy? All right. The numbers could be low. And that will serve as an important opportunity for you. All right. So compared to another business where there are no regulations, no licensing, and so on and so forth, anybody can get up and get into that business. So you want to be mindful of the threat of new entrants. Another way to look at it, apart from licensing, is also the capital requirement. All right. If it's a business that requires huge amounts of money, then you tend to be protected a bit. Okay, even though anybody can go to the bank to acquire a loan. to start that business. But if the capital requirement is huge, that is likely to dissuade people from getting that particular business. I always use the example of telecommunication. All right. In time past, when it was only Ghana Telecom, all of us knew that if we were to set up a telecommunication company in Ghana, you'll be profitable. The company will be profitable. You make money, right? But how many people were able to take advantage of that? Because it's not the same as selling pure water or sachet water. All right. It's capital intensive and so on and so forth. So apart from the regulatory side of it, the capital requirement could be an important variable that could protect you from new entrants. But whatever be the case, one of the variables, forces that could eat into your profit is the threats of new entrants. Okay. The other guys you want to pay attention to, or variable you want to pay attention to, is the bargaining power of customers. Are you in an industry where your customers have high bargaining power? If they do, your bottom line will be affected. What it means is that they can actually ask for reduction in prices. And once they can beat the prices down, they can also beat your profit margins down. Okay. So once again, there are conditions where customers go have higher bargaining power. If it's a customer that buys in bulk, then obviously they tend to have more bargaining power. If it's an important customer, and here importance could be popularity, okay? And we know of celebrities that are actually paid to use a particular product. They don't buy. They are actually paid as a form of advert. Okay, so if you were to get that customer, obviously the customer is likely to have more bargaining power over you. All right. So there are conditions where the bargaining power of the customer could be high, or the bargaining power of the customer can be weak. Okay. And this are things that you want to pay attention to. All right. The explanation is similar to the bargaining power of suppliers. If your suppliers have a lot of bargaining power over you, here what they will do is that they can increase your cost of production, because they can increase the price of the inputs that you buy from the suppliers. All right. And one of the popular or the common condition is if you rely on only one supplier and you don't have several suppliers to rely on, what it means is that whatever price the supplier is demanding, you are forced to pay that particular price because you don't have alternatives. Okay. So the bargaining power of suppliers is one of the forces in the external environment that you want to pay attention to. The last one is the threat of substitutes. So yes, so all these points are just summarized form. So please, once again, I want to encourage you to find a way to get the book on that, my book on this, so that you get detailed explanations of each of these points. All right. Okay. Then the threat of substitute products and services is another force that you want to pay attention to. So similar to existing competitors, these guys may not be the same company as you are in, but they are companies that produce substitutes of the products that you actually sell. What it means is that whatever your product can do for your customers or consumers, the other companies, whatever that they are selling, has the capacity to function the same way. Okay. So if their prices become cheaper, instead of using your products, they will go for the substitute products or service. If the quality of the substitutes become better than yours, instead of coming to buy yours, they will rather go for the substitutes. All right. So part of the analysis of your environment is to pay attention to the threats of substitute products and services. Anybody to give me an example of substitutes? I'm sure you've heard it before. What are some of the examples of substitute products?
Hello, Prof.
Yes, please.
We can talk of Pepsi Cola and then Coca-Cola.
Pepsi Cola and
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Okay.
And we can also talk of Nestle Milo and then Bonvita.
Nestle, Milo, and Bonvita.
Yes, please.
Okay. What again? Anybody to come on board? Anybody to give us another example?
Hello,
guys-
Prof.
Hello, Prof.
Yes. Please use the hand button. I won't know the person until I see. So click on the hand button so that I can see your name. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, please. The reaction, if you go to the reaction, there's something that looks like a hand.
We can also talk about
Mhm. Please, who is speaking? Who is speaking? Who is speaking? We can also talk about. Okay, let me continue. So we have example of Pepsi Cola and Coca-Cola. We have Nestle, Milo, and Bonvita. Don't you think these are different brands of the same product? What do you think? Are they substitutes or different brands of the same type of product? You get what I'm saying? So a friend of mine made this very logical analysis some time ago. And he was of the view that whenever we talk about substitutes, most of the time we think about different brands of the same product. Okay, like we have Pepsodent and we have what is it? Close-Up, right? Are they produced by the same company? I need your feedback. Pepsodent is by which company? Close-Up by who?
Unilever is for Pepsodent.
Unilever is for Pepsodent, right? And
Yeah.
Close-Up is for which company? So let's just assume that there is another company that deals in Close-Up, all right? But his point is that they are all toothpaste, only that they are of different brands. Okay, and he argues that instead of thinking about substitute in this way, in fact, it will narrow or weaken our ability to do this analysis. So if you were dealing with Pepsodent, the most likely company you want to be mindful of are companies that sell different brands. So we have Close-Up, we have what is Maxam still in the system. Another toothpaste. It was very popular then. Please, are you following?
Yes, Prof, we are following.
Okay. And there are several
Yes, Prof, we are here.
Yes, there are several other brands of toothpaste. Okay, but he argues that to really appreciate this substitute and how they can influence, you should be thinking about another product that can be used to say clean up your teeth, but it is not like the regular toothpaste. So with this example explanation, what will come into your mind apart from using the toothpaste? What are the other options? Yes, Osborne.
Prof,
Yes.
Prof, I'm not talking about the toothpaste. I'm talking about the industry we are in, the oil industry.
The
I think
oil
of
industry. You are,
yes, I think
but can we finish with this so that we don't lose that? I'll call you to explain the oil industry, but let's clear this one first so that we don't lose our thoughts as to what I want you to get. Yes, any other? I saw a hand.
Prof.
Yes.
Yes. Can we think of paste and that of chewing sticks?
So chewing stick comes to mind, right?
Yes, Prof.
Okay. So his argument is that the real substitute are not different brands of the same product. Okay, but substitute should be something somehow radically different that can be used for the same product. So if we're thinking about, and it makes a lot of strategic sense. So if Pepsodent and all the other toothpaste become so expensive that we're just making a hypothetical example that people cannot afford to buy, then people may resort into using charcoal or chewing stick. All right. Okay, Osborne, come in now with if you have any other example like this that you want to share.
Okay, so based on the arguments, I'll talk of oil industry, where the substitute could be the renewable energy sources like the solar power and the that of electricity. Oil-based products being the
No, you are not clear. You are not clear. Osborne, we can't hear you. Can you position yourself where? Probably get your mouth to the mic and let's say you.
Okay, I was
It's better. Yeah.
talking about the substitute product for oil-based products.
Oil-based product, yes.
Yes, which could be the renewable energy sources like the solar power and
Okay.
the use of electric vehicles to the agro and the that of the gasoline.
Okay. And which one is likely to be more expensive? Oil-based energy products or renewable energy?
Oh, in Ghana, the renewable energy will be very expensive here.
Okay.
But elsewhere in the United States, I think it will be better to the oil-based products.
Even in the long term, will the renewable energy be more expensive in Ghana? I know that the initial expense could be high, for example, for setting up a solar panel, but probably in the long term, if you compare how much you'll be spending on energy compared to solar panel, it may be cheaper. I don't know, I'm only asking. Which one? Am I right to assume that way?
Yeah, you're right. In Ghana, things like all sorts is very, very expensive. So it will take time for us to adapt or access to that energy products, being the solar and the electric.
Okay.
Yes. That's where in the other states, I think they are.
That's fine. I think the point is well made. So that is another variable in our force that a strategist must pay attention to. Threats of substitutes. All right. The normal thing, you see what we mentioned, the lady who gave me the first answer. Please, your name?
Evelyn, Prof.
Good. Evelyn, what you were talking about falls much more under one. Okay, rivalry among existing competitors. So whoever is selling Pepsi, then clearly will know that close-up is whatever. Whoever is selling Nestle Milo will be conscious about Bonvita. All right. But all of these guys have to know that if people don't have money, they may go for what do you call it? Porridge in the morning, or any of the other substitute that we can think about. So that is how to differentiate between rivalry among existing competitors from the substitute products and services. So as a strategist, don't just look at what your rivals are doing, but also be mindful that there could be products that can serve as substitute to the current products that you offer. And the threat is real because, as I said, if the substitutes are going for cheaper prices, then there is no way a rational customer will leave the substitutes and come and buy yours. Or if the substitutes are now of a higher quality than yours, your product, then there is no way the rational consumer or customer will leave the substitutes and come and buy yours. All right. Okay. Let's move to this other concept known as hyper competition. So hyper competition is a competitive state of constant disequilibrium and change. So in a state, we are learning about the competition in the external environment and all that. So a state where the competition is so high, such that there is constant disequilibrium and change. You cannot really get your hand on hold on what is happening. That is what is meant by hyper competition. Okay. So some have argued that if that is the case, if a business or an industry can get to that state of hyper competition, then really there will be no point in having a strategic plan, because strategic plans are normally drawn for a long period of time, all right, for 5 years, for 10 years. But if things within a year or two can change so radically, then what is the point? Okay. But some have, Michael Porter has argued that it is also important that with your strategy, competitive strategy that you have in place, you become more nimble, quick, and able to learn as change happens. So what basically it says is that companies must become fast and quick learners now, because things are happening in the external environment. And if you just draw or write your strategy plan and go and keep it somewhere, hoping that the assumptions will stay constant, you will be laughing at the wrong side of your mouth. Okay, so the condition of hyper competition calls for the need for companies to become very, very fast learners and becoming more adaptable to changes in the external environment if you want to survive in business. Okay, so those are the lessons that we want to pick under hyper competition. If you don't adapt quickly or innovate quickly, you are likely to die as a business. Okay. Within our context of external environment also, we have to know what is known as strategic fits. We've identified, and all the discussion so far is in the context of the external environment. And we've established that in the external environment, what we are looking out for are the opportunities, or if you want, and the threats that are likely to affect your business operation. Okay. So if you were to go there and you were to find the opportunities, what next? What happens? You need to establish the concept known as strategic fit. Okay. To help you to note whether the opportunities are something that you can take advantage of. So I spoke about the era where we had only Ghana Telecom, and we all saw for me, I saw the opportunity that anybody that was able to set up a telecommunication company is likely to do well. But why couldn't I set up? Or why couldn't you also set up? So the strategic fit is matching the opportunities of the external environment with an organization's internal capabilities. All right. So the obvious thing to note here is that it is not all the opportunities in the external environment that the business can pursue. If you don't have the internal capabilities and what it takes to be able to ride on those opportunities, they may still be opportunities, but they are not opportunities for you because you don't have the capabilities to be able to ride on that. Okay. So the concept of strategic fit is to align your internal capabilities with the opportunities that you may find in the external environment. Okay. So the opportunities and threats suggested by PESTEL, the industry life cycle, and the 5 competitive forces have to be assessed against the strengths and weaknesses of the organization's internal environment. I've just explained that. So you may have found opportunities in all of this area, but do you have the internal capabilities to be able to ride or take advantage of these opportunities? Okay. Strategic fit also exists whenever one or more activities comprising the value chains of different businesses are sufficiently similar to present opportunities for. So for companies, we're discussing some point when we use despite group of companies. I think types of strategies when we're explaining corporate strategy, you remember? And we use despite group of companies, we use multimedia examples. I think one of the groups, somebody even spoke about Kennedy, Japan, and so on and so forth. Do you remember that discussion?
Yes, please, Doc.
Okay. So those types of businesses may profit from strategic fit in the following ways. So they are capable of transferring competitively valuable resources, expertise, technological know-how, or other opportunities from one business to another. Okay, so if you pick Joy FM and Joy News, Joy FM is an FM station, Joy News is television. Or in the case of Despite, if you pick UTV, and which one? Despite
Peace FM.
Peace FM. Good. Okay. Most of the guys that are working at Peace FM are more likely to be able to work on UTV. Why is that the case? Why is that the case? The guys on Peace FM are more likely to be able to fit in easily and UTV. Or if you pick Joy, the guys that are on Joy FM should be able to work well on Joy News or any of the other television channels. Why is that the case? Evelyn.
Prof, please, looking at the point we are talking about, that there can be transfer of expertise and then the technological know-how from one business to another. I think a person can move from, let's say, Peace FM to UTV easily because of this point that we are talking about.
Evelyn, have you answered my question? The question is why. I didn't ask you to repeat the point for me. Why is that the case? Why is it that somebody working at UTV can easily fit and Peace FM? Or if you want the English version, why is it that somebody at Joy FM can easily fit in Joy News?
Prof.
Yes.
Yes, please, can we look at the expertise they would have gathered? Because both company belongs to the same, both stations belong to the same company. And I'm sure that, for instance, Joy News and Joy FM, they work hand in hand. And the people that are in Joy FM may have similar or not slightly different skills as compared to those in Joy News. So when there is a need for somebody to move from one station to the other, that kind of distance is there. It's like he's already used to the environment.
No, but I'm not talking about environment. You being used to the environment. But what about that job will make it easy for them to fit either way, whether moving from the television to radio or radio to television?
Yeah, so I will say the expertise, Prof.
The expertise, right? What do they do? What is common to both radio and television? What is common? What is common? Hey, you people, do you have radios at all? Rose. Oh, it's not the name of a person. Radiant Rose. Swansea.
Yes, sir.
Yes, what is common? Television and radio. As far as what the worker is there, what they do is concerned, what is common?
They are all in the media.
Yeah. What do they do? What do they all do? Husband, what is common?
I think
If it was to be face to face, the way I'll ask you people. You said?
for their communication skills and
Yes. So basically, they are basically into communication, isn't it? The only difference is that with television, your face will be shown. Radio, they won't see you. So I always say the difference is that you have to be more beautiful if you want to go on television, or more handsome than being on radio. Because radio, the only difference is that your face will not show. But television, they'll capture the visuals. All right. But the skill set, it's largely the same. You basically be talking. Okay. So what you might need is a nicer voice, a voice that is better than mine. So whatever we are doing now could have been a discussion that we are having on radio or television. All right. The skill set is just your ability to think and talk. Probably do some research before actually you come. But largely it's about talking. It's about communication. So we are talking within the context of strategic fit. So instead of employing, say, 10 set of people for radio and another 10 set for, say, television. Rose, you can go to your suede drawer, but mute your mic. Okay. So instead of employing, say, 10 people radio, 10 people television, that will not be a wise thing to do because of strategic fit. Some of the people that will be able to talk on radio also have the ability to be able to talk on television. Okay. So maybe you might have 10, 5, or any of the combinations. Maybe because of the technical things that they have to work on television, you may need some technical people. But instead about the talking, the same person can be on radio and also work on television. The only difference is probably you have to just top up the pay a bit, but it will still be less expensive than employing two different people. Okay. You may just add some small allowance to that, right? So you see, I think Evans Mensah, normal juggle between radio, it gives the 6 news, and also when it comes to Joy News, it's often there to grant interviews and stuff like that. Okay, so that is the whole thing. So the expertise, the know-how can be transferred if you're dealing with a group of businesses that are related, right? The next points are almost the same. Cost sharing between separate businesses where value chain activities can be combined. So it's possible whatever you need in terms of probably an antenna or whatever it is for radio could be the same thing that you need for the television. So you don't have to buy 2 things. All right. Whatever that you need, I don't know the names of the gadgets there, but whatever you might need for television is the same as you need for radio. And so instead of buying 2 each, if you were independent companies, because now you're a group of companies under the same ownership, you can just buy one and use the same asset for the 2 companies. All right. Brand sharing between business units have common customers or that draw upon common core competencies. So the same example goes, and this time it fits well with Joy. So most of the time they don't want to leave. Of course, if they go to Kumasi, I think it's Love FM, another place, they may have a different name. Okay. And I think they also own Adam. But it fits well with Joy News and Joy FM. All right. And I think they also have Joy Prime or something of that sort. So that Joy brand actually helps in sharing. They share that among all the companies that bear that particular name. And there is higher possibility that anybody that tend to listen to Joy News a lot also has the higher chance of listening to Joy FM, especially if you are in Accra. Okay. The same listening is likely to go for people that listen to Peace. They are likely to be the same set of people that will be interested in what is happening at UTV. All right. So by having this group, businesses under the same group, you tend to benefit from what is known as strategic fit, because some technologies can be shared, some costs can be shared, some assets can be shared, and that helps the company as a group. Okay. Then we have the concept of strategic fit and economies of scope. So economies of scope is quite popular. Okay, so cost savings that accrue directly from larger operations. If you're producing more, there is the higher tendency that your unit cost will come down. Because if you buy more raw materials, you are likely to get discounts. Other costs might come down in terms of transportation costs and so on and so forth, because you're buying large volumes. All right. But that is different from economies of scope. All right. Economies of scope is what we've just explained. Cost savings that come as a result of strategic fit that occurs along the value chains of related businesses. So as for economies of scope, it's coming because you have several related businesses that along the value chain, those businesses can share the same type of assets or resource or the same research and development activities and all that. So instead of spending money both ways, if they were separate and independent companies, you tend to enjoy what is known as economies of scope, because you can bring them together. Okay. So this morning's class is a combination. It's an example of economies of scope, because I have to teach education, strategic management, oil and gas people, strategic management. I've been able to arrange that. And instead of talking twice the same topic, I can handle the same topic now for both groups. And that is an example of economies of scope using strategic fit. All right. I hope it is clear. Is the explanation clear?
Yes, sir. It is clear. It is very clear.
Very clear. Can you please give another example?
It is very clear, and you are asking for another example.
Yes, please.
No, but I think it's quite clear. It's just so yes. What we say is that if you take the TV and radio, we just said that instead of employing different sets of people, you can save money by using the same people to work on both sides. Okay. That is the economies of scope. The benefit that comes from the fact that the same people that work on TV can be the same people. You can use the same people for television. All right. So the cost savings that comes this time around is not as a result of economies of scale, but it's as a result of economies of scope. All right. You have several businesses that share some strategic resources along the value chain of that particular industry. All right. So we have classifications. You can have market-related fits, strategic fits. You can have operating fits, and you can have management fits. All right. So market-related fit occurs where companies reach the same customers via similar distribution channels. Through these channels, companies can market and operate their product simultaneously. All right. So that is market-related fit. If you take Unilever, for example, what are some of the products that they deal in? So I'm talking our interest in groups. So for example, they deal in soaps, right? Different types of soaps, but we can categorize that as soaps. Then they deal in oils. Yes. All right. Yes. Then what again?
Cosmetics.
They deal in cosmetics. Beautiful. Okay. Do they distribute when the company cars go around to distribute? Do they distribute these things separately, or they are normally in the same car? Or to put it, yes, please. Anyone to come in? The soaps and oils. Anybody with an idea of their operations? So for example's sake, we want to assume that instead of having cars or vans that will be carrying soaps, oils, and all that, assuming they were separate companies, okay? This time around, because they have divisions in the company that deals in this. So now, once again, I'm making an assumption that the soaps is like a company on its own, oils company on its own, and cosmetics company on its own. Instead of having separate vans for this, they can just have one van that can distribute all of this to the same retailer or wholesaler, and they will in turn sell to customers, okay? If they are doing an advert, they can use one ad and talk about all of these products because all these products fall under the same company umbrella. All right. So those kinds of things are what we call the market related fit. You can use the same brand as we spoke about, Joy News, Joy Prime, Joy FM, as an example of the market related fit. Okay. Then the operating fit is what we spoke about, the skills transfer, right? The person is a good communicator. So whether the person is on radio or television, he is able to do well. So why employ two people where you have to pay much more than having the same person doing both work? Okay, the allowances might be the same because transportation allowance, he only comes to work once. Whatever it is, security, those things may stay the same, but there may be extra allowance for the extra work that person is doing. But if you were employing a new person, transportation has to be different because they are two separate people. Security, all the allowances that you see on your paycheck will be different. But if it's the same person, some costs will remain constant. Okay, so that is the concept of operating fit. The management fit obviously is where you have the group of businesses falling under the same management. All right. So if you pay attention to Joy FM, for example, so they don't normally appoint them for specific companies. They appoint them to deal with some aspect. I'm not so much into the media, but they mention a name or a term that will cut across Joy FM, Adom FM, Love FM, and that person is supposed to be the manager for that. Okay, so instead of employing a manager for that aspect for all these companies that I've mentioned, one person is employed and the person is to take charge of all of that. And of course, they will have one CEO instead of having 4 or 3 different CEOs to deal with these companies. So all the cost savings are under the management of this group of companies. It comes as a result of what is known as management fit. Okay.